G'day there guys, it's Connie here again, coming at you with some more Reddit stories. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and remember, one like is one crumb I feed Marquee. And, oh, 1 second, he's calling me. Yeah? He's hungry, so... Anyway, enjoy! Okie dokie, for something a bit different, we're on the Boomers Being Fools subreddit. This one was written by user MetalSlug53, and it's titled, I plan on showing up to a boomer's place of work tomorrow to let him see how it feels. I went into my local Walmart tonight for a quick grocery trip to pick up some stuff I was low on. Quick in and out trip, 15 minutes at most. Sad to say, it didn't end up being a fast trip because when I arrived at checkout, I was stuck behind a boomer who wanted to cause a scene. The guy in front of me was with his wife, who were arguing loudly about God knows what. They had a substantial amount of stuff on the belt, including a few large bottles of various alcohols. When the boomer scanned his way back to the bottles of alcohol, he froze and began searching around for an associate who I presume he wanted to come and scan his ID. The problem was that he didn't scan any of the bottles. He just looked up and stared directly at a girl who was busy at the monitor for the self-checkout registers the next aisle over. After about 30 to 45 seconds of not scanning anything, he loudly shouted, "Excuse me," in his most condescending tone, followed by, "Can you come and scan my frickin' ID, please?" His tactic worked, as the employee in question immediately whipped around and walked over. He was doing that typical arms-crossed bullcrap, looking like everything was a giant inconvenience, and I will note, homie still hadn't scanned a single bottle of alcohol yet. When this young woman was in speaking range, the boomer began to lay into her. It makes me real sick to see workers just standing around when they're on the clock doing nothing, when people like me have schedules to keep. Can you do your frickin' job please and scan my ID? "Excuse me," she responded. "You effing heard me. Get off your goddamn phone and scan my card so I can get the hell out of here." Now, I would like to note a few things about this interaction up to this point. First, this individual was still in a work outfit, a mechanic's onesie for a local mum-and-pop tyre company that I won't name here, but one in which I know the owner pretty well. He's a family friend. Second, he was still wearing his name tag, Eric. Somehow I hope you're competent enough to find your way here so you can see this story. Because of this, I knew how to address him. Eventually, he asks the cashier very rudely if she's going to scan his ID, and she flat out tells him, "No, I don't think so. Not after how you've treated me. You can talk with my manager." Good for her. She gets on a walkie and calls for a manager to come to the register, and the boomer was towering over her and briskly walked off towards the customer service counter at the front of the store. The boomer starts loudly hollering about how this is all bullcrap and he's just expressing his First Amendment rights. It was at this point where I actually found some balls and decided to give my opinion, unsolicited, just so this guy could get an outside perspective of how much of a jerk he was being. "Excuse me, but the First Amendment doesn't protect you from looking like a douchebag to random strangers in Walmart when you treat other people like crap." The guy wheeled around and locked eyes with me. "What did you just say to me?" I just smirked and said, "Oh, hard of hearing, are we? I'm pretty sure you heard what I said." The guy visibly shook on the spot. "This ain't any of your effing business, so butt out." I disagree. When I see someone acting like an a-hole for no good reason, I make it a point to speak up. You seem to think that by stating that you have a First Amendment right means you can say whatever the hell you want without consequence, but that isn't how it works, sir. First Amendment protects you from government overreach for speaking your mind, but it doesn't protect you from the consequences you face from others for your words or your opinions. The boomer says, "That's besides the point. I'm sick and frickin' tired of these minorities doing nothing and getting a paycheck for it," he responded, rather loudly and unaware that there were quite a few people staring at this point. Hooray, racism has entered the chat. The manager showed up, and he starts in on how he scanned his alcohol and that the associate in question was very rude to him and refused to serve him. He started stating that she told him he wouldn't get help because he was white, when I interjected again. "Ma'am, that is not what happened. This gentleman didn't even scan any of his alcohol and immediately started shouting down at your employee just for the sake of being upset. He was rude, unpleasant, and even made unnecessary racial comments." He wheeled around at me again and yelled, "Shut the F up and mind your business," before going on the tirade again. Something lazy workers, something First Amendment, and speaking his mind. This is very unfair of you," I started again. "You've put that poor girl in an unwinnable situation. Now that you've raised this untrue complaint, her manager is going to have words with her, even though she hasn't done anything wrong. Does that sound fair to you, Eric?" I don't think he realised he was still in uniform because he looked at me puzzled at how I knew his name. "How would you feel if someone came into your place of business and told John a bunch of bullcrap about how you were treating them unfairly when you knew perfectly well that it was a lie? Or even better, how would your boss react if he knew you were acting like this while still in uniform with his place of business plastered all over your chest?" When he heard me say the name of his boss, he stopped cold. "Yes, Eric, I know John very well, and I think I might be paying him a visit tomorrow. That is, unless you decide to apologise to that girl for being a lying prick instead." The guy then became very rushed and suddenly in a colossal hurry. He muttered something about people not minding their own business, to which I replied with, "I'm just expressing my First Amendment rights," SpongeBob's sarcastic voice and all. He scanned one of the bottles and had the manager scan his ID. His wife started in about how I better not show up to his office tomorrow, something directed at me, but I wasn't paying her any attention and brushed her off. I was just staring at Eric and watching him bag. Eventually he got all of his stuff put in his basket and he marched out, but he didn't apologise to the manager or the employee and gave me a hearty, "Go F yourself, a-hole," as he flipped me off. I scanned my groceries and paid for my merchandise, but man was I smiling from ear to ear. Afterwards, I made it a point to go and speak with the manager and the employee in the customer service centre. As expected, the manager was having a conversation with the employee about that customer, and she thanked me for speaking up. I've worked retail before, so I know what it's like having to deal with a-holes like Eric. It'd be a cold day in hell before I let a boomer bully an employee, then weasel his way into a victim role with management. Not on my frickin' watch. So now my next play is to show up to this tyre shop tomorrow. I really hope Eric is there. I hope he's the opener. I'm going to walk in and just smile at him, ask to see his manager. Then I think I'm going to go in and just weave the nicest story about how he treated the employees at Walmart. So much so that I was compelled to stop in and tell his boss that he has a real winner on his hands and that I'm a customer for life now. Maybe that way he might get a message. Maybe he'll realise that I could have started a whole crap storm for him, but I chose not to, because unlike him, I'm not a frickin' dickhead. Yeah, honestly, if it were me, I'd probably just tell the boss the truth. If Eric regularly treats people like that in customer service, then he's the one that deserves a minimum wage job. Let's go to some comments. Please, for the love of all that's good, post a follow-up. What Eric doesn't understand is that most self-scan machines will notify the person at the station when help is needed. So had he scanned a bottle of alcohol, she would have been notified and headed over. Some even have the light above the machine flash or change colour when customer service is needed. So until someone needs help, she's not going to know they need help. I can't wait till the update tomorrow. People like that will never reflect on their failings. It would be better to just inform his boss on what kind of douchebag his employee is. Do not lie. Do not tell the nicest story. That is how he gets away with it, and it would not get through his thick skull to not be a douche. Good people need to start holding "See You Next Tuesdays" accountable. Alrighty folks, on to the update. Before we begin, let me start by saying wow, simply because when I passed out last night, I was hovering around 350 upvotes and had a steady trickle of interaction with people. I was doing my best to respond to the comments as they came in. Then when I woke up this morning, I had over 1,500 messages in my inbox, and this thread is frick-tupled in upvotes, just overnight. I'm so sorry if I didn't respond to you. It was a fool's errand to try and get to everyone. I also want to address specifically a small handful of you, the ones I was certain would show up in the comments to basically call me a liar or say my story was fabricated. Some of the reasons you gave were pretty telling. My favourite was when someone said something along the lines of, "This is too well written to be true." What a world we live in where clear dictation automatically disqualifies a recounting of events from being accurate. I'll admit that it read closer to a novel than anything else, but that's just how I dictate, I guess. Anyways, on to the update. I arrived at the tyre shop just a hair after 8 AM. There was one gentleman in line at the counter when I arrived, but he was already being assisted by one of the associates manning the register. I took a look around and peeked my head in the back office area where I knew John typically worked when he wasn't being pulled into a bay. John wasn't there. As I walked towards the sitting area, I happened to ask an employee who was walking by if he knew when John would be in today. He told me John usually arrives a bit before 9 a.m. when he worked mornings, so I should just chill for a bit. I didn't have anything pressing to attend to today, so I did just that. As I moved towards my seat, I happened to glance outside at the working bays and noticed my old buddy Eric, who was currently walking towards the main building. When he saw me, I watched as his head drooped down and I could visibly see him mutter the F word under his breath. He stopped for just a second, shook his head, and continued walking towards the building. When he came inside, he set a packet with what I presume was a customer order on the counter and said something to the clerk at the register. He hesitated for a moment and walked over to where I was sitting. As he approached, I greeted him with, "Morning, Eric," and smiled. He just stood over me for a moment before he took a chair across the coffee table that was sitting in front of me. Wonder what his next move was? Honestly, I didn't expect it, but the dude opened with, "I owe you an apology." Colour me shocked, I guess. Now you see, at this point about a billion things began to run around in my head. Mostly, for some reason, the things that ran most prominently through my mind were all the calls for bloodshed that popped up in the last thread, all the claims that boomers can never learn, and the only language they knew was bullying, which were thrown at me like mortars practically every step I took. Y'all were bloodthirsty last night and still were this morning, convinced that this gentleman was a drunkard arsehat. But do drunk arshats apologize after doing something wrong? Back to the story. He continued on, saying that he didn't just owe me an apology, but also the cashier he yelled at last night, and how he had actually planned on returning to Walmart on his lunch break to see if she was working so he could apologize to her as well. In his words, "I've been dealing with a lot of personal crap in my life recently, including the loss of a loved one, and I took that out on you all last night, and it wasn't right." Right about this time is when I noticed that John had arrived. He walked in through the door behind where Eric and I were sitting and walked straight into the back area I checked before. We'll get to that later. Guys, I honestly had no idea what to do. On one hand, yes, this dude was a raging douchebag to that girl last night, but this felt genuine. I mentioned several times in the first thread that I didn't want to react hastily, and this is exactly why. Had I gone in there and thrown a colossal fit and started a crap storm, I don't know if this would have ended the same. Anyways, I don't wish to grandstand things further. The guy apologized, I stood up and shook his hand, and I simply told him, "Be good to people for no reason, man. Kindness is free and isn't a sign of weakness." We chatted a bit and had a bit of a revelation that Eric and I have a distant connection neither of us really knew about. I won't disclose what or how we knew each other for personal reasons. Then John came out the back office. He recognized me and gave me a hug, asked what I was in for. I basically told him that I ran into Eric at the store last night and wanted to check in on him and get an update on an issue he was having there. That's when John said, "Yeah, Eric, I need to talk to you about that. I had a lady call me about something that happened at Walmart you were involved in." Oh crap, I'm guessing either the manager or the cashier called John after what happened last night. I guess the ball isn't in my court any longer. Eric gave a deep sigh and basically told John, "I was a craphead to a cashier last night because I was in a hurry. I wasn't thinking and it wasn't right. I'm going to make it right at lunchtime. I hope she's working today." John then said something I didn't catch, and him and Eric walked into the back room. That's it. End of story. I took a scrap from a notebook, jotted down my proof and snapped a photo, then jumped in my car and left. I certainly hope that this brings you guys whatever closure you were looking for. I'm certain some of you aren't going to be happy with how this turned out, given how many pitchforks I saw last night. But after all this, all I can say is to not be so hasty when jumping to conclusions. People are people, y'all. You can't really be sure what someone is going through before you jump to judgment. Some folks don't know how to ask for forgiveness or don't know how to take responsibility for their actions, but some folks can. I'm glad this resolved itself the way it did. John knows what happened and knows that it happened with his business on full display, so he can now choose how he reacts with that information. I got the closure I needed, and I hope the cashier does too. Time will tell in that regard, I suppose. Be good to each other. Opie makes a final edit in the comments. Inbox replies disabled, but I'm still surfing comments. It's wild to me that so many people are upset that this didn't play out the way they hoped. Guys, I'm not saying Eric is a saint here. I'm not saying what he did was excusable, but I absolutely refuse to try and add any more suffering to the situation that has already been dealt. Some of you want me to return and get this guy fired. Some of you want me to post his info online. None of this will be happening. I consider this story done, and there'll be no further interjection on my part. I know some of you won't like that response. Hell, some of you have already taken to insinuating that I'm excusing racism in the comments. Big yikes, guys. But this is where things end with me. Reflect on your own feelings after reading this. A whole lot of you are still angry, but a whole lot of you are happy with how things played out. I'm personally glad where things end. Whether or not that makes me a fool, naive, or an idiot is your opinion to have, I guess. But I can walk away from this knowing that my presence extracted an apology, and that's good enough for me. Keep being kind. It's genuinely a real-life superpower. The universe rewards kindness in kind. Yeah, and I agree with that 100%. What do you guys think? Do you think Opie should have taken it further, that this guy deserved to be fired? Or do you think he did the right thing? For me, bad day or not, uncharacteristic outburst or not, there's no excuse to be racist like he did. Anyway, give me your thoughts and we'll move on to another story. Okay, jumping over to Petty Revenge, this one was written by user Pineapple8900 and it's titled, My guidance counsellor told me I wasn't university material and years later I pretended not to know her. I know it doesn't sound much like revenge, but it was oh so sweet, let me tell you. Back in high school, I struggled hard. I had a stepdad who adopted me and then ignored me my whole life, and a mum who was wrapped up in making his life perfect. Yeah, he was what some might call a textbook narcissist, with my mum as his flying monkey, Wizard of Oz reference. Anyway, school was a difficult time for me, and I had a lot of anxiety and a hard time focusing. I attended all my classes and was always doing very well on my assignments, but had trouble completing them. My guidance counsellor was the same all through high school, and every year would start with a meeting with her, and I would explain I needed more help because I was struggling to focus. She brushed me off every time, stating that I obviously wasn't trying hard enough because I had no excuse, since my stepdad, adopted dad, was, wait for it, a social worker for the school board and personal friend of hers. Yeah, it was awful. At the end of high school, we had our obligatory meeting about what colleges and universities or trade schools to apply to. I told her I was interested in psychology and would like to be a counsellor or to teach psychology. This woman scoffed, literally scoffed at me. She said, and I quote, "Please do not apply to university. It would be a huge disappointment for you. You are not university material, and you may be better with a community college or even certificate in administration." Now let me say, there is nothing wrong with going to community college or getting a certificate in something, nothing at all. But this woman's words would haunt me my whole life. I wanted to pursue something I was very interested in, and she essentially told me I wasn't smart enough or capable enough to do it. Fast forward to my late 20s, I worked at a variety of small jobs here and there and became very depressed. I finally decided one day that, F it, I'm applying for university. Well, I got in and graduated with honours, so I went to Teachers College for another bachelor degree. Again, graduated with honours, and about 5 years ago, I finally finished my master's in behavioural psychology. 2 years ago, stepdad died, and who was at the visitation? My old guidance counsellor. She came right over and started talking to me immediately like she knew me, like we're old friends. I cut her off and said, "I'm so sorry, you must be confusing me with someone else." She looked absolutely shocked and said, "I was your guidance counsellor for 4 years." And I just shook my head and gave the best blank look I could give, shrugged, and said, "Sorry, I honestly don't remember you." When I left, she looked a bit confused and disappointed. I think she had hoped for me to have all these good memories of her, how helpful she was to me as a teen. But nope, I wanted her to feel that she was nothing to me. Had zero effect. Even though she did affect me, I wasn't letting her know that. I felt pretty good about that. Wow, top stuff. That's cruel. The guidance counsellor, that is. How can anyone in that sort of position tell an aspiring student to just give up and not even try? It's disgusting to me, honestly. Opie adds some edits. To anyone wondering, I now teach psychology to future counsellors, so I'm doing what I originally wanted, and that made this so much sweeter. My mum had run into her a few times at the grocery store before this and has bragged about my accomplishments, so I didn't have to tell her about them. She knew I was successful. Since she already knew, I pretended she was nobody to me, to ensure she understood she contributed nothing. Also, those who say she helped me in the end and she was right, no. I asked her to help me for 4 years and got nothing. She laughed at my dreams and goals. She did not do her job. She failed as a guidance counsellor and, frankly, also as a decent human being. Amen. You can't let people like this put you down. Alrighty folks, you know the drill. Give me your thoughts down below. Maybe you got a similar story you'd like to share. Okay, well, on relationships, this one was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, Am I wrong for saying no to my boyfriend who went from wanting a threesome to now wanting another girlfriend? Me and my boyfriend have been dating for a little over 2 months, and our relationship so far is pretty good, up till now. He recently told in passing conversation that he wants to have a threesome. I asked why, and he told me it's one of his fantasies. I of course shut that down, because that's not how I roll. If I'm in a relationship with you, you are my person. End of discussion. Then he proceeded to tell me he thought I would be down because I'm not straight. Shocked, I tell him just because I'm attracted to other genders doesn't mean I'll sleep with multiple people. That's very different. Then he let out that the person he was thinking about doing the threesome with was one of our co-workers. I immediately say absolutely not, because that's a disaster waiting to happen. Pouting, he drops the conversation. Now Reddit. Today he went from wanting a threesome to wanting another girlfriend. We were at his mum's talking about work and the other co-workers there, when he brings up this girl, and we'll call her A. I don't know A very well, but working with her is nice. I have nothing against A. He begins to tell me he sees us and A having a relationship together. I ask him why, and his reason was that he sees himself as an amazing man, and that he wants to build the connection me and him have with someone else. He wants me to be a part of it and okay with it. I told him no, he's in a committed relationship with me. He then fires back with, well, I personally find A attractive, just like how I find you attractive. At this point, I'm in utter disbelief. He then says, is it wrong to think other people are attractive? I say no. Plus, it's wrong to assume I'd be okay with you getting in relationships with other girls and just expect me to be okay with it. He then says he wants to get to know other people on a more intimate level. I tell him there are other ways he can do that, make friends, but that just went over his head. He then says that if we were to ask A, she would be on board with it because he thinks she likes him. Because why wouldn't she? At this point, I'm practically speechless. Then, later that same night, we got on the phone and talked about it some more. At this point, I'm in tears, practically telling him that the fact that he wants to get intimate with someone else makes me feel like I'm doing something wrong as a girlfriend. He then tells me no, I'm an amazing girlfriend and that he loves me. I fire back with, if he loved me, he wouldn't say crap like this to me. He would see me for who I am and not try to find someone else to have fun with just because you think you deserve it. He then tells me I'm not being fair. So Reddit, am I being unfair? What the hell did I just read? Drop this guy. End of story. Drop this guy. He's delusional. I actually had to go back and check ages and this guy's 23. Honestly, even if he was 18, I'd still be saying this. Let's go to some comments. Walk away. This relationship is a dumpster fire waiting for a match. 2 months. You don't even have sunken cost fallacy as an excuse to be with someone like this. You're 19 and you've been dating for 8 weeks. Block him and enjoy your summer. For the sake of your own mental integrity, evict this gaslighting SOB. I'd not wait another minute. I'd consider healthier to get instant punishment for such behaviour on his side. You're a 19-year-old girl. Next time, be more picky about your future boyfriends. Yeah, enough said. OP makes a couple edits. I'm a little new to Reddit, so bear with me. I wanted to take the time to clear up a few things. For starters, I want to say I did not meet my boyfriend at work. We met through a dating website. He started working with me a little after we made it official. And to those people who think he is possibly polyamorous, he is most definitely not. I actually brought up that notion and he didn't see himself as that. Also, when we first met on that dating site, his profile said monogamous. I even took some of your guys' advice and mentioned a man to have a threesome with or another boyfriend, and just as I thought, he saw that as gross. He didn't see anything wrong with it being a woman since I'm not straight. As of right now, I've not broken off with him yet, because he is being very good about not mentioning it since the last time we talked about it. I got very firm with him one night and flat out told him not to mention it to me. He then said he would ask A just to see if she would be down, and to also prove me wrong. I told him to go for it because I know she has a brain in her head and she would never say yes to that ridiculous request. I'll update you all once I find out what she says. Update 2. He frickin' asked her. I was at work today when A came up to talk to me. She told me that my boyfriend told her he thought she was attractive. A shut him down, saying that's weird of you to say since you have a girlfriend. Then she tells me he asked to touch her butt, and another co-worker corroborated on her story. I feel so sick to my stomach. I confronted him about it when he first lied to me. Then he said, why can't I do whatever I want? I'm so done and heartbroken I can't even put into words. Yeah, girl, this is a no-brainer. You shouldn't even be feeling heartbroken. This guy's not worth the energy. Okay, on to an update. If you haven't seen my original post, I would go to that because I edited the update because you can apparently post only one update. This is going to be a long one, so bear with me. Me and him are done. At least in my head we are. I haven't broken it off. I plan to, but I need to go about this the right way. He can be pretty aggressive vocally, so I need to make sure I'm going about it safely for me. Monday I was at work. I was on my break when A came and sat beside me and asked if I was mad at her. To be fair, I have a resting B face, so I always look ticked off, but that day wasn't a good day for me. I was stressed and I didn't really feel well. I told her no I'm not, I'm just stressed because of work. She sighed and began to lay it all out there. She proceeds to tell me not only did he end up telling A about how he found her attractive, he even tried to make advances on her. I immediately felt sick to my stomach. I went to the bathroom and just cried for what felt like hours. A hugged me and told me she was sorry she had to tell me like this. I told her I appreciate her for telling me. She then said she was going to get the manager and tell him I needed to go home. I told her thank you because there was no way in hell I was going to get back to work knowing all that. I ended up going home and my boyfriend got off shortly after. That's when we had a talk. I confront him over the phone on what A told me and how I was appalled and not okay with what he did. He of course denied everything I was saying, but after a few minutes of pressing on the issue, he finally relented and said, okay, I told her I like her, so what? You knew I had feelings for her, so why is this a shock? I told him I was more upset at the fact that he made advances on her. He said he never did that. I told him I was going to ask A then because something is clearly not adding up. He told me not to. I asked why, and he said she wouldn't tell me the truth. I said whatever and hung up and texted A, just asking for more information. Then not even 5 seconds later, the boyfriend calls back and asks why I texted her. I immediately ask how he knows I asked. He then tells me he got her Snapchat, and she screenshotted my messages and sent them to him. I'm of course very confused, and now I'm thinking, is this B trying to split me and my boyfriend up so they can get together? We then started yelling and screaming at each other about how our relationship wasn't healthy and all our problems we had with each other. We fought for about 2 hours, then we ended the call. During that time, while I was at home, I was talking to A about what happened, and she says that she was only trying to help. She doesn't want to come between me and my boyfriend's relationship, and that she only screenshotted my messages because it's her phone and she was confused on why I was reaching out to her. She then reassured me that she was going to stay away from my boyfriend. I thanked her and ended the conversation. About an hour later, my boyfriend called me back asking me to come over. He wanted to talk in person. I didn't feel comfortable with that at first, but I ended up going, and I made sure to bring my pepper spray and a metal poker just in case. When I got there, he was on his bed, clearly crying. He looked so pitiful, Reddit, I couldn't help but laugh in my head. I might have let out a snicker. He then proceeded to apologize to me, telling me he loved me. I asked him what he's sorry for, and he said for hurting me. We sat in silence for a good while. We ended up talking things out, and then I left to go home. The next day at work, my general manager came up to me and asked me what happened the day before. I told him my side of the story, and he told me that A made a complaint about what happened and that he has to now treat this as an investigation. I of course get worried about the outcome. I ask if my boyfriend is going to get in trouble. He said no, he was just going to get a stern talking to. Now as of writing this, he's been talked to once and is going to get talked to again. I think personally he's very bipolar, because he went from being apologetic to seeing nothing wrong to what he did. This will be my last update. If you guys have any questions, I'll answer them under your comments. But for now, thank you all for the help and advice. Geez, I don't know, man. This guy assaults someone in a workplace and then he gets a stern talking to. I have a feeling he deserves a little bit more than that. Now for the final update. I broke up with him, and it went as I expected. I read all your guys' comments and made a plan on how I was going to do this. I also had a close friend help me do it. Basically, I ended up deciding to call him. He answered right away. I told him we needed to talk, and he said okay and if everything was okay. I told him no. Then I started to lay it on, thinking about how much he's put me through in this relationship. And now the drama that's been happening this week is not good for me, and it can't be good for you. He sat there silent for a good while. Then he started name-calling, saying I'm a bad girlfriend for not respecting his boundaries and listening to him on what he wants. I told him what he wants is crazy. We bickered back and forth until I finally just had enough and ended the call and blocked him. After that, I called my work and put in my 2-week notice. I'm currently looking for a new job. Okay folks, and that's the end of that one. Geez, it seems a bit unfair that she's the one that has to leave the job when he should be fired for what he did to the co-worker. But all in all, yeah, not gonna lie, pretty exhausting to read. Not only the writing style, but just the energy this person's putting into a 2-month relationship. Like seriously, just get out of there. This doesn't have to be a Reddit post. Oh well, I guess it serves as some sort of entertainment for us at least. What are your thoughts? Let me know down below. Alrighty, let's move on to another one. Okay, we're over on Am I the A-hole? This one was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for leaving my fiancée after I learned there were strippers at her bachelorette party? What the title reads basically, I, 29 male, and my ex-fiancée, 29 female, were together for 5 years. We should have been married now in the normal conditions, but I broke up with her and cancelled the wedding 2 days before it happened because they invited male strippers to the bachelorette party. I am personally not a fan of these parties, but reluctantly agreed after both groom and bride side confirmed we would keep it simple. I told my ex-fiancée I'm not comfortable with strippers or other kind of crazy things. She agreed. I also told my friends if they were to do a stupid thing without me knowing, we would have problems. We stayed at my friend's summer house and chilled there by the pool, did some WoW raids and played board games. My ex-fiancée and her friends went to a restaurant, then rented an Airbnb. There was no problem during the night, and the next day I asked how things went. She and her close friends said it was really chill and good. We returned to the city centre after that. I encountered another bridesmaid that day when I was shopping for a bracelet for my ex-fiancée for her upcoming birthday. I asked that girl how is everything, as we were in the same department at the college but rarely talk now. She is closer with my fiancé than me. She said it's going good, and last night was crazy with all the strippers. After saying that, she looked uncomfortable. I asked her about the details, but she was not willing to tell much. I think she realised she should not have talked about it. I laughed, said goodbye, and left. I confronted my fiancée, and she seemed surprised about it. She was denying at first, then told me nothing crazy happened, and one of the bridesmaids invited strippers. I reminded her that it was a strict boundary for me. I asked about the details, but she said there was nothing much with strippers, just solo dancers and that's it. I told her I need some time to think. Almost all of the bridesmaids messaged me, ensuring nothing happened when I was on my way back home. Definitely not coordinated. This happened after that, but in the end I decided to break up and cancel the wedding. I lost some money since it was only 2 days before the wedding. Things are not cool right now. My head is messed up, I get criticism from everyone, and no idea about what to do. My sister told me to see a therapist to process my thoughts and feelings. That is what I'll do next. Some mutuals suggested to me that I should reconsider things and stop being so whiny about such a small thing. I don't think it's such a small thing, especially when they all tried to hide it from me. Am I the a-hole here? Yeah, I mean, it's a boundary, she crossed it, and she tried to keep it a secret. I mean, it's as simple as that. Personally, it probably wouldn't bother me this much, but I'm not OP. Let's go to some comments. Not the a-hole. It was crazy with all the strippers is hugely different from it was really chill and good. This isn't just lying, this is a total reversal of the truth. Even her, it was just solo dancers, is not the same as crazy. So they're lying, all of them, except the first one. Not the a-hole. It comes down to the lies. Also, her friends also lied. One said the truth but knew they effed up and weren't forthcoming with information. Just makes you wonder, what if anything in the future they would lie about to cover up? You told her it was a boundary, and they stomped on it. She violated your trust. You both agreed no strippers. She had strippers. It doesn't matter who made the arrangement, she could have told them to leave. Then when you knew, she lied, and then she doubled down and initially denied it. She stretched the violation of your trust further. Not a way to start a marriage. You did the correct thing. If you married her, you wouldn't know if, how, or when she was lying. Not the a-hole. Opie comments, everyone is telling different things. One person says it was crazy, my ex says it was just solo dance, another person says it was different. I don't know whom to believe, to be honest, and that's one of the reasons I lost trust here. Apparently the stripper was naked, and that even alone is a deal breaker for me. There's no way for me to know what happened that night, and why she did not even bother with calling me or telling me about it. One commenter says, info, I get your boundaries were completely stomped on, but before I can give a judgment I need a bit more info. Did the girlfriend know ahead of time, or was she ambushed once drunk and away from home? How far from home was she? What would you have done if she'd called you tearfully and told you her friends had gone behind her back to organise strippers, but she was too drunk or didn't have a vehicle to drive to leave? And how has she been with these friends since? Opie replies, we were about 30 to 40 minutes away from each other. If she called me, I would have gone to take her. If my friends invited a stripper without my knowledge, and we both agreed it's unacceptable, I would call her and let her know. If available, would leave the place. If not, would probably take an Uber or have her pick me up. She's not doing well with her friends. It's chaos. Yeah, no wonder. On to an update. I read most of the comments in the original post and thank you for the advice. My problem was that not her being blindsided by her friends, but lying. Every bridesmaid told different things, and none of them gave details about what happened. I believe you can understand it just shatters the trust and makes you think there's something going on. I thought there was something wrong with me after reading the comments. There were a lot of you're the a-holes, and I thought I should apologise. One of the bridesmaids reached out to me last evening. I suspect she saw the post somewhere and recognised it. I knew my fiancée was having problems with her friends since last week, but I didn't know the extent. Apparently my ex-fiancée and her close friends blamed the girl that I encountered at the mall about everything. This divided the group and led into a verbal fight. I'll skip the personal details here, but in the end, she told me my ex-fiancée and other bridesmaids got sexual with the strippers. My fiancée was the only one who had a boyfriend or a fiancé or spouse, at least monogamously, there, to my knowledge. Also, I was told by her that my ex-fiancée was not blindsided with stripper invites. She was happy to see the strippers and was relieved she had an excuse. I do not have proof for all of these, but I got a short video of girls making out with the strippers. One of the girls is my ex-fiancée, and that's enough. She has been trying to reach out to me since we broke up. I confronted her again. At first, she denied it again. Then it became we just touched. Then, okay, we kissed too. Okay, I gave him a handjob. Finally, I was coerced into doing these by others as I pressed on. I just blocked her after the last part. I did not see any need to learn further. I was hurt already, but learning that I got cheated on hurt more. I'm not sure if it's the full truth even now. I will never know, but all I can say is it hurts. I'll go to a therapist to not carry my luggage to my next relationship. I lost 15k from the wedding-related things and need to focus on filling the hole for a while. Some misogynists made weird comments about women, and I'll just ignore them. Some of the people told me I am an insecure, unfunny nerd for playing World of Warcraft on my bachelor party. Isn't the whole point of bachelor parties having one last fun? It was raiding non-stop with the boys for me, not having one last sexual interaction with a stranger or having a stranger's butt on my face or penis. I'll not miss out on these during marriage anyways, omitting the stranger part. That's it. It's therapy time tomorrow, and thank you for the help. Geez, yeah, learning about what she did with the strippers just makes you sick. Also, I'm not sure if you can call them strippers at that point. Sounds like escorts. But yeah, I totally agree. I think the whole last night of fun with sexual implications is just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And the fact that people use these occasions to cheat on their significant others before they get married is disgusting. Like, how do traditions like this divulge into such stupid things? Alright, on to the new and final update. A quick update with good news. I sorted out most of the mess regarding the wedding ceremony. Ex-father-in-law and ex-mother-in-law came to learn about the details and covered 10k of the wedding costs. I also got the ring back. They're amazing people and I wish them nothing but the best. They apologised for what happened even though it has nothing to do with them. My ex is blocked everywhere and stopped reaching out to me. I assume her parents had a good talk with her. I have people supporting me during this tough time around me, thankfully, especially my friends. We keep playing Season of Discovery with the boys because Carter Classic sucks. Yeah, I'm not a World of Warcraft person myself, but I'm willing to believe him. Anyway, what are your thoughts about that one? Let me know in the comments. Either way, that's it from me today. Hope you guys enjoyed those stories. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good day. Cheers.